Howdy everyone, and welcome back to the Luna Geeks Out channel. Today we are continuing along with our journey through Sleep Token's new album, Take Me Back to Eden, with the track Rain, one that I've heard a lot of people talking about, and a lot of people enjoying, but I haven't really heard anything about what actually happens in the song, which is kind of weird. But also, I haven't been paying much attention, so kind of makes sense as well. But yeah, very excited to check this one out, very excited to discuss it, so without further ado, let's hop into it.
For so long I've waited, so long that I almost became
Nice highs there in the vocals.
just a stoic statue fit for nobody.
Really good piano as well.
I don't wanna get in your way, but I finally think I can say that the vicious cycle was over the moment you smiled at me. And just like the rain, you kissed the dust into nothing.
That's
And wash out the soul from my head.
that's a cool shift right there.
So touch me again.
Oh, got like electronic bass in there, it sounds like.
Will you cleanse me with pleasure? Is that chemical cut that I can get down with? Up like the moon and out like the hounds. A dangerous disposition, somehow refracted in light, reflected in sound. I'm coiled up like a venomous serpent, tangled in your trance and uncertain. You have got your hooks in me. I know the way that it goes. You get what you give, you reap what you sow, and I can see you in my faith. And I know I am what I am, the mouth of the wolf, the eyes of the lamb. So darling, will you saturate? Just like the rain, you cast the dust into nothing and wash out the salt from my head.
Great escalation on this chorus. Oh, works perfectly both in the softer parts and the harder parts.
Nobody can say for certain if maybe it's all just a game. When I
Ooh, rain sounds mixed in, very nice.
to the future, I can hear you say my name. So rain down on me. Rain down on me. Rain down on me.
Ooh, back vocals right there, very nice. Ooh, and closing out with some rain sounds as well. Oh, that's really nice right there. Yeah, very, very good song. That I think is one of the biggest surprises on the album, where, you know, I expected the long songs to go crazy and have all these different shifts and everything, and you know, there's been tracks like, vor, especially, that really came out of nowhere. But man, the way that one just progressed was far greater than I expected. That was incredible. And a lot of different styles in there as well. A lot of little just individual, somewhat hidden moments even. Really cool. Cannot wait to talk about the music in this one. But first, of course, we need to discuss the lyrics. And I should give a quick content warning. We will briefly be discussing ideas, I guess, of sexual activity and everything. Not in depth, of course, but it will be mentioned. So just wanted to let y'all know. Some folks aren't comfortable with that, and that's completely understandable. I don't think that's what the song is about. There's like one section I can actually see it in, but enough people are talking about it. I think it is worth mentioning at least. But yeah, let's go through these lyrics and see what is happening here. So starting off, verse 1. For so long I've waited, so long that I almost became just a stoic statue, fit for nobody. The annotation here makes a connection to the song Mine, one that I probably would have made myself if I actually listened to that song more, because that one I somehow always forget about, despite it being really good. The line in there, I have waited, paralyzed by my own will. A connection that, seeing that lyric, looking back at this, can definitely see. But essentially the idea here is that Vessel has been waiting on something, right? Been waiting on, assumedly, whoever this past partner is. At this point in the song is the idea we're seeing, the idea we're trying to understand. That's the main idea. Could be something else in the past as well, an idea I'm a bit more leaning towards, as we'll get to later on. But something happened to them that caused them to just kind of stop and wait for essentially something more, something better, and to draw inwards, to basically shut out the outside world, to become stoic, as it says there, and something that really harmed their ability to connect and to form any sort of meaningful relations. It is the idea I'm getting there. And once again, reminder that we are, of course, discussing Vessel the character and not Vessel the person. I do think that is still very important to understand. But anyways, moving on in verse 1, and I don't want to get in your way. The idea, essentially, that they don't want to be a bother, supports the idea I mentioned of sort of drawing inward, shutting off the rest of the world. They don't want to bother anyone else, don't want to have to rely on anyone else. But then we get a shift here at the end of verse 1. But I finally think I can say that the vicious cycle was over the moment you smiled at me. So, whoever the subject of this song is, essentially showed a brief moment of kindness towards Vessel that allowed them to be able to open up a bit more, to form a bit more of a connection. And the positivity that comes from that. Into the chorus. And just like the rain, you cast the dust into nothing and wash out the salt from my hands. Essentially an idea of being cleansed, of being healed, of recovery, right? The dust, that which has settled down in the stillness, being washed away. The salt ties, of course, into ideas that we saw on this page, becoming your tomb, of heavy ocean imagery, washing that away, cleansing Vessel, allowing for recovery, allowing for something better. So touch me again, I feel my shadow dissolving, feel the darkness slipping away. Will you cleanse me with pleasure? And that is the line right there. That, in conjunction, I suppose, with So Touch Me Again, that is the one part of this song that I can actually see the idea of, sex being an actual thing within this song. Even then, I think there's more going on than just that. There's almost certainly ideas of sort of that physicality and intimacy and so on that I've discussed in the past. But it doesn't feel like it's about sex, I'm just not seeing it. And some of the other connections people are making in this song, frankly, just feel absolutely insane. That one, I can understand that one. But I think it is more just that further idea of really the positivity and the joy that this person brings about, the subject of the song, is the idea I'm getting there. Along with, I should also mention, along with ideas of longing as well, something tied into a lot of that, that imagery we see within their music. Because, of course, a lot of these sections that people have described as the perhaps baby-making music, mainly Sugar and that final section of the Summoning, have a lot of that sense of longing within them. But anyways, moving into verse 2, it's that chemical cut that I can get down with. I don't have anything to say on this line, but I do need to point out the annotation on this, which is absolutely insane. The annotation here with -10 points says, to quote the first part of it, the chemical cut is a reference to a woman's moist vagina that he can get down with, which is obviously a sexual reference. And I know laughing at this and poking fun at it is a little rude. I apologize for that. I don't intend for that to be what I'm doing here, but that is an insane connection to make, right? Because chemicals and cuts are both ideas we've seen within Sleep Token's lyrics quite a lot. Songs that come to mind immediately for chemicals are Alkaline and Aqua Regia. For cuts, I swear there was reference to cuts in The Apparition, but the lines are escaping me. Are You Really Okay? Very obvious in there. Atlantic, High Water. I can't think of any of Sundowning, but there's probably some in there. So it's two different sort of ideas of, two different parts of imagery we see very commonly within their music, joined together. Two things that are clearly very important within their discography that Vessel can get down with, right? That they can, that it is something that, in a sense, while it seems a negative, it is seen as a positive here. I mean, yeah, the get down with, sure, I can see some of those ideas with that as well, but again, it feels like a stretch, and the chemical cut just sounds absolutely insane. But anyways, moving on in the song. Up like the moon and out like the hounds. Of course, the moon goes up and the hounds are going out. And, they're howling at it and everything. Ties a little bit into a later line in this verse that we'll talk about, but I don't really have too much to say with that, aside from moon imagery does tie into the album, of course. A dangerous disposition somehow ties back into the ideas of danger we see within their music often, that danger sort of creeping back in, which is part of the reason why I think this song is taking a look at sort of Vessel first encountering whoever the subject of their songs is, be that sleep if you choose to view things that way, or this past partner if you choose to view things that way. The idea of them first meeting, the initial positivity that came from that, and the harm and such that slowly crept in. Refracted in light, reflected in sound, light, sound, two things that are sensory, so beyond the sort of physical nature we see within their music, but also an idea of it being all-encompassing, this presence essentially being everywhere, creeping into everything. I'm coiled up like the venomous serpent. Someone did make a connection to the snake in the Garden of Eden. Very likely to be an actual connection. The idea I'm getting there is essentially just a further idea of danger. Coiled up also ties into the next line, tangled in your trance, and I'm certain. So the idea that they are coiled up as this venomous serpent is part of being tangled up in this trance the other person has. So the idea of, control over them, they're under the control of the subject of the song. And then the next line expands upon that a little bit. You have got your hooks in me. Ties back into actually, I'm getting similar imagery to chokehold. You've got me in a chokehold. You've got your hooks in me. Just a further idea of essentially this strong, somewhat violent possession. And I know the way that it goes. You get what you give. You reap what you sow. What I'm seeing here is an idea that in a lot of the songs, Higher is the one that really comes to mind for me. alongside Say That You Will, is there's been an idea that, a lot of the abuse and pain that Vessel seems to have suffered were likewise dealt out by him, and perhaps something that he actually wanted, perhaps not. I think there are different interpretations that could be had there, but the idea that he was dealing that out, and so he was getting it in return, is essentially the idea I'm getting there. Perhaps an idea of this being deserved, which definitely, I think, fits into a lot of what they see, and also ties in a bit into some of the religious imagery we see within their music as well. And I Can See You in My Fate ties into Alkaline again. I See in a Different Light, The Object of My Desire. I forget the next line, and How It Connects to Mine. Hopefully you'll know the line I'm talking about in the chorus. And I swear one of the songs on this album as well, we discussed that idea in, but unfortunately, I'm forgetting what one. Maybe Ascensionism, that feels right. But in the next section, I know what I am, or I know I am what I am. The mouth of the wolf, the eyes of the lamb. So you get a bit of a juxtaposition here. The mouth of the wolf, of course, ties into the ideas of mouths, biting, all that we see within their lyrics quite often. But essentially this outward, very apparent, something violent, something loud, something, a word I've used a lot with their lyrics, visceral. But the eyes of the lamb, eyes, of course, as the saying goes, are the windows to the soul. So we're getting this idea of what's deeper down, what's not as much projected forth, what is perhaps their true nature. So we get ideas of perhaps innocence, I think much more accurately with what we see within their music, ideas of vulnerability. And finally, at the end, so darling, will you saturate? The annotation here mentioned that this is a connection to Aqua Regia, Saturate Me, I Can't Get Enough. I made a connection to Atlantic, Flood Me Like Atlantic. But then it also goes on to say that to be saturated is to be performing cunnilingus, as this song suggests. So once again, a connection to sex, and once again, I'm just not seeing it. This feels more like the idea of the rain down on me, that further idea of cleansing, and just the longing for that. Again, it is the idea I'm getting there. And it's not as insane as the Chemical Cut connection by any means, but it still feels like a stretch to me, that one. Some of the other ones folks are making, not as much. That one certainly does. We have the chorus repeated again, nothing new in that, so nothing new to say. The bridge, nobody can say for certain if maybe it's all just a game. The annotation here makes a connection to Bloodsport. The line, I made loving you a blood sport I can't win. So let's play. I do think there's, in theory, a connection there. What I was grabbing was essentially more just the idea that this connection, this relationship, all of that wasn't real. Ties back into what we were talking about the other day in The Apparition. Similar theming there. When I open my eyes to the future, again, ideas of fate, of what is coming, that we've seen a lot throughout this album. I can hear you say my name, so a further connection between these two. Someone makes a connection to Calcutta here in the annotation. A further idea here is eyes, so sight. Hear, so ears, sound ties back into the earlier line, refracted in light, reflected in sound. I think there's a callback going on there. And finally, at the end of the song, repeated however many times, rain down on me ties back into that idea within the course of cleansing and the desire for that. So yeah, I can certainly see some aspects of the idea of sex within this song, because it is a certain aspect of Sleep Token's lyrics and of their theming and imagery and stuff. But I don't think that's what this song is about. I think this is more functioning as essentially a recap of ideas seen throughout their discography, and a look back at sort of the relationship they had. And I think more looking at sort of what it was established as, why there was that sense of longing within this, why Vessel was a part of this, is the idea I'm grabbing there. I'm sure there's a few different interpretations that could be had. I did see one interpretation that I actually quite like. I don't think is correct because of a lot of the stuff that happens later in the song, but essentially an idea that this was a song for the fans. Something that I can definitely see with the, but I finally think I can say that the vicious cycle was over the moment you smiled at me, and then the idea of healing and cleansing within this, because I'll try to remember to link this down below, but there's a great video someone put up on YouTube of Vessel's speech from the Room Below concert they did. And he essentially, to heavily paraphrase it, is talking about how someone managed to essentially get a letter delivered to him. I don't know how, but someone managed to do that. And the contents of the letter were essentially just this person telling Vessel that they had saved them. And Vessel was, at the end of the speech, saying that instead of it being him who had saved the fans, it was instead the fans who had saved him. And sort of that idea. So I can see a bit of that reflected in here, but I think once we get into verse 2, as the song progresses, I think it becomes somewhat clear that that's not necessarily what's going on. I think it would be foolish to say that that is not necessarily an element that appears, because there are so many layers to their music and so many different interpretations that can be had. But again, what I think is taking place here is essentially just a look back at this relationship we've seen detailed over their discography so far, and essentially a look at sort of why it formed, why it was so powerful, but also a sense of why it was so harmful as well. And different ideas wrapped up within that. So yeah, definitely an interesting track, one that on its own functions really well, more so than some of the other ones we've talked about. But when taken with the rest of their discography, much like I think I talked about this with The Apparition, when taken with the rest of their discography, it really does elevate into something more. So yeah, definitely some pretty powerful stuff within their lyrics. I'll be honest, not my favorite I've heard from. I think some of the other stuff we've had on the album so far has just resonated with me more. Like The Apparition, Ascensionism, I keep mixing those two up for some reason. Ascensionism, I think, just had so many cool little plays on words and connections and stuff that really impressed me. Vor, I think, is still my favorite lyricism I've heard from them, the way it really escalated a lot of the imagery we see. And the Do You Wish That You Loved Me and Are You Really Okay are both songs that just had this real sort of emotional resonation. And here, I don't think it quite reaches the level of any of those, but definitely some good stuff. Yeah, just some good lyrics, I think is a great way to sum it up. But I am out of things to say on the lyrics, so let's hop into talking about the music, which was fantastic. This is, I suppose, a bit of a switch from Are You Really Okay, where I thought the music in Are You Really Okay was pretty good, not my favorite, but pretty good, but I thought the lyrics and the emotion was phenomenal. Here, I think the lyrics are pretty good, but the music is incredible. Definitely, I'd say like top 5 of the album for me so far. Where exactly everything lays, I don't know, but it's definitely up there. We had, I guess we'll start off just the order we normally do, starting off vocals. Those were great. We had some emotion in them again. I really liked the highs we had in verse 1. I thought that was really nice. Going into verse 2, there was, I think, a bit more of sort of some darkness that came forth that I really liked. The choruses didn't really stand out to me as much vocally, but I thought they were really well done. And then the outro was great. There were a few things in there that I really liked. There were some backing vocals that just kind of soaring around, essentially, that I thought were phenomenal. And then there was one point, I guess about halfway through, I think it was the point where we had that heaviness come back into that outro, where it was subtle, but in the background you could hear a scream come forth, which was incredible. So, yeah, great vocals in this. There was a lot of that sort of longing that I talked about, which I really liked. So yeah, the vocals in this track were amazing. The guitar Oh, that was good. Maybe some of my favorite guitar in here. We had some real heaviness in there. We had a bit of that chunk that I love so much. I don't think it necessarily was as shocking as it has been in some of the other songs here. I think we had some moments that were just really cool, like that almost sort of droning, kind of siren-sounding guitar at the beginning of Chokehold. We had just the insane heaviness and the summoning, so on and so forth. There's just the heavy, raw, brutal atmosphere in Vor, a lot of different stuff like that. The more sort of cinematic feel and Ascensionism. Here, there wasn't necessarily anything that was like, oh man, this is such a big surprise, it's coming out of nowhere, but it felt like a really good return to a bit more of a classic feel for Sleep Token. Like, it's a sound, or a style that I've heard a lot before in their stuff. Really reminded me of, Alkaline, actually, but it felt very new as well. It felt like a good blend of some of the older stuff and some of the newer stuff, so I really liked the guitar in this. The bass guitar didn't stand out to me too much, but there was, I mentioned, sort of like a droning electronic bass that I really liked, so I thought that was really good. The drums. The metal drums didn't stand out to me quite as much in this track as they have in some of the others, which has just been one of the things that's happened with this album. It happens with Sleep Token as a whole, where I really have to sit a while and really focus on the drums to figure out all the nuances within them. This one was just one of the ones that was slightly less apparent, but what we did have was in the more sort of pop-oriented drums. During, I guess, like the piano sections and the more somewhat electronic-focused sections, you had a bit more of that pop feel with the drums. Something that I've heard in a lot of different songs. It's been in some Sleep Token stuff. It's been in a lot of other stuff. I'm sure there's some artist my sister listens to that I've heard a lot that has a similar drum style. I'm drawing a blank on anyone who it could possibly be. But, you know, it's just that more pop-oriented drum style, like I mentioned. Really liked that. That actually, surprisingly good. And like I said, it has been something I've heard a little bit in some of the stuff they've done. Popped up a little bit in Do You Wish That You Loved Me? I had that playing in my head and had to take a moment to figure out what song it actually was. But, I don't know, not quite on the same level as some of the other stuff, at least not on this first listen, but certainly what I heard I quite liked. Then there was, of course, the piano. Really liked that. That may be my favorite piano on here. I mean, certainly the jazzy piano and, Aqua Regia was cool, and that more almost classical feel in Ascensionism was really nice, but there's just something about that almost modern pop, but not quite feel that we got here that I ended up really liking. Just really resonated with me. I think it conveyed some good emotion. Maybe not quite as emotional as Ascensionism, but I think what was going on with the piano did resonate with me a bit more. I can't think of any other, like, elements within the music off the top of my head, but certainly some great stuff in there. There was also not so much a musical thing, but the sampling of the rain sounds, very cool. I think as we shifted into maybe the second chorus, maybe the outro, one of the two, there was like some thunder that I think got sampled in there as well, which I thought was really nice. I thought that was some great atmosphere, and ending the song out with just that fade out into just the rain sounds was really nice. I loved that. So yeah, that was really good, and just the way the song came together was really nice, because we had all these different sounds within it. We had that, like I said, more almost modern pop kind of feel. We had just that heavy, chunky, almost metalcore, but not quite kind of sound. The first part of the outro actually really reminded me of the band Black Math, who I've actually compared to Sleep Token many a time in the past, and that felt like it came right out of one of their songs. Like, it feels exactly like sort of a musical progression that could be made. And on a related note, the drums in this, the more pop-oriented ones that I mentioned, actually gave me some slight vibes of Saint Mesa, I believe the artist is, as well. So, just some interesting connections throughout here. But it was all these different styles, and much like Ascensionism, they ended up coming together pretty much perfectly. I thought we had all these different sounds in here, but they didn't feel disjointed. They felt like they really fit together. Perhaps not quite as tightly as Ascensionism, but also, you know, they weren't going as crazy as Ascensionism, so the way they fit together wasn't necessarily as impressive, you know? But yeah, great track overall. We had some good emotion coming forth, but I think something that was a bit more important for me was we had one of those songs that was just a cool, almost fun song. It's that kind of thing where it's the joy and the fun of music that just kind of does cool stuff, right? And I feel like a lot of the songs here on this album have somewhat been lacking that, where they've had some different stuff, but there's been very few songs just like, whoa, that's going crazy. That's bringing in all this different stuff. I really like that. It's just cool. There's been, I don't know, I feel like there's been less of that sort of punch on this album, which I was really glad got delivered here. So yeah, just to wrap up, really good song, really good song. I definitely up there, as far as the ranking goes. I don't know exactly where it would fall, but I would easily say top 5 so far, for sure. I quite liked this one. But yeah, I am out of things to say on the song, so y'all know the drill. It's time to figure out what we will be checking out next time. We are up to 60 things on the picker wheel now, because we had a couple things released recently that had to be thrown on there, but hey, we are still slowly chipping away at it. This is going to take forever. Let's give it a spin. That took a little while to go. Let's give it a spin and see what we get. Definitely some stuff I'm hoping for, but I think I will be happy with anything. RQ Rolling Quartz. That is a Pink Drop, I think it was called. It was like a mashup they did of Pink Venom by Blackpink and Mic Drop by BTS, I think, featuring Alexa, who's a vocalist I really like. I have no idea what that's going to be like, but it's Rolling Quartz. They're really good. They're, to make a somewhat rough analogy, they're essentially sort of the Korean Band-Maid. There's definitely some musical similarities between them. Definitely a lot of their own identity as well. Really cool band, bringing in a great vocalist to feature in that one. So yeah, that's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to checking that one out. I've been looking forward to that since it dropped. So yeah, I'm gonna have a good time checking that one out. But anyways, yeah. Rolling Quartz next time, and then Steep Token, and then who knows what after that. But yeah, hopefully I'll see y'all for that. But that is going to do it for the reaction, so thank y'all for watching. Be sure to like if you liked, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below with your own thoughts on the track, any feedback or criticism, or anything you want me to react to. In the description, link to the song so you can check it out, support the artist. I'll also try to link that Room Below speech as well. Hopefully I don't forget about that. Links to my Sleep Token videos playlist and my Rock and Metal reactions playlist so you can check out some similar content from me. And then links to my Discord server, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify playlist of all the songs I reacted to, at least the ones up on Spotify. And my link tree, which has all my other stuff in it in case any of that interests y'all. Anyways, like I said, that's going to do it. So once again, thank y'all for watching, and until next time, I'll be seeing ya.